I review dangerous things, mostly knives, firearms, and now swords in the Nutnfancy project. Out of all the swords that I've been privileged to hold, to swing around a bit, to fondle, my favorite to this point is the Japanese style katana. I love the katana for lots of reasons. Its looks, its history, and mostly its capabilities. Hey guys, this is Nutnfancy running the Nutnfancy project. I've had on my mind for quite some time sword reviews. Maybe I'll knock one out here and there. This is going to be my first here in the Nutnfancy project, and it's going to be on the Cold Steel Katana. I've reviewed a lot of Cold Steel products, but never any of their swords. That's probably going to change if this video is well received. It gets some good views. I'll secure and review more of their swords. Kidding around with that pronunciation. On the table, I have two representations of the Cold Steel line. They are going to be the foundation of this review, and I'm going to talk about the differences, my opinions on the type, and that's mostly what this review is going to be about. I say opinions because there's going to be a couple things perhaps, especially if you're a martial artist, a practitioner of swordcraft, that you might find wanting in this review. One is I'm not going to take these swords out and abuse them. Some of them are on loan and some are going to get resold. Some will be kept by me. Yeah. But mostly some are going to move on down the line. And for me to go thrash a $300 to $500 sword for the purposes of the video, I'm just not going to do that here in TMP. Subject to change, but that's how I'm thinking now. There's other online resources of people who are willing to do that with their swords. You can look that up. They'll go thrash it, they'll break it, they'll write up their opinions on their backyard expeditions and doing just that. It'll give you also a data point, and that's all this video is a data point for what I think are some of the coolest katanas around. And there's some other very interesting and actually in some ways better competitive options. I'm going to talk very honestly and frankly about those as we progress. So that's a ground rule. No thrashing of the blades. If you're looking for that, you probably might not want to watch the video. There's other sources for that. I'm also not a martial artist and never will devote the time to become one with these katanas. I think you have to be pretty much a lifetime practitioner of swordcraft to become very good with them. So were the samurai, right? That's what they did, to my understanding. It was their primary weapon. They practiced with it constantly. They practiced with the wood katanas. They translated that over to the steel. I'm not going to be a regular at your dojo. So if you're looking for that, you might be disappointed. And I'm always learning. The stuff I'm going to tell you about this sword review, as I learn and progress in my understanding of the type, maybe I'll say different things. Maybe my opinions will change on steel types, on adherence to traditionalism in the katana design. You may see that. So there you go. A couple ground rules. Let's get to it. I'm going to start off in the 2012 Cold Steel catalog. I just reviewed that knife not too long ago. That's the new version, and it blows. 4116 Krupp steel, the leather neck, hollow ground. You might as well just go buy a K-bar, right? I'm digressing now. Here we go to the swords. The one right here, this one, Warrior Series Katana. Gotta have fun in the review. Katana. Okay, oh yeah, one other ground rule. I gotta say this is really important. All the parts, fittings, have certain Japanese nomenclature. For this first katana review, I may make mention of those, but I'm not going to adhere to them throughout the review. In fact, I'm purposely going to deviate from them. For instance, the Tsuba, the guard, I'll probably just call it a guard, this right here, because I want this video to be easily understood to non-practitioners, and I think that's what most of these swords, that's where they're going to end up. is guys who aren't in the dojo, maybe backyard slashers, whatever. So if, again, that offends you, don't watch the video. That's all I can say. Okay, I want it to be honest and real and easily accessible to my subscribers. And another reason is I don't want to come off as pretentious. So if I use all the Japanese names, to me that sounds like I actually am a practitioner, and I'm not. I'm just me, man. Warrior swords. Okay, this is this one right here in the back, and then we have its upgraded brother. This, and by the way, that Dragonfly, this is a Dragonfly Katana, catalog number 88DK. This one right here, I'll take it out and show it to you as the video goes on. That's that middle sword right there in the catalog, with a whopping retail of $719. Whew. Whew, we'll talk about value here, and then there's the, where is it? I'm looking through the viewfinder. There we go. The standard 88 BKW katana, this one, the 28-inch blade. Those are the subjects of this review. Let's kick it. I'm going to just use this printout because it's basically the same. It's like reviewing a large knife. We'll kick it off with philosophy of use for a katana. Let me tell you this. These are formidable weapons. I have to be honest in the review, and I have to talk about the very destructive and dangerous capabilities of a katana, especially to you if you are a goofball. You take a katana out that's sharp, like these Cold Steel ones are, very sharp out of the sheath, and you start swinging around, you're careless with it, you're going to slice your hand, maybe some other body parts off, so you need to be very careful. Like all dangerous things, they need to be used by responsible people. If you're not responsible, if you're an idiot, then I suggest you never get a knife, a gun, or a sword. Stay away. Go play with rubber swords. How's that? These are capable weapons, like I said. Easily able to slice an arm off, maybe cleave a man in two if swung with enough power. If we're going to be honest to the review, we have to talk about the katana. But that is why we love them so much. I don't think women get this, by the way. They go, well, why would you care? Because these suckers are battle ready. First philosophy of use is weapon. They are battle ready. To me, hanging a letter opener katana wherever, on my mantle, chest of drawers, anywhere on display, is so unappealing, I can't even tell you. It doesn't serve a purpose. But to have a battle ready implement there holds all kinds of second kind of cool, as I've always called it here in the Nutnfancy project. It's fascinating to me. I love it. To me, that is where the attraction first and foremost lies, that if we were to swing this in defense of our lives, in defense of our loved ones, we know we could rely upon it. It's not going to fall apart. It's not going to break. I'm going to spend a fair amount of energy in this review talking to that as I see it currently. A weapon. But Nutnfancy, you said you need to be a practitioner to be really good with them. True, and I'm going to stick with that. I think you do, to be a sword fighter. And to me, that's someone who can go up against another sword fighter. Let's say two guys armed with a katana going up against each other. And by the way, I can't think of pretty much anything as terrifying as that. Don't believe the movies you've seen. In the movies, they pretty much are choreographed to hit each other's blades. That is not how a real sword fight goes. They're going for flesh and bone as fast as they can. Slashes, pierces, swings, whatever. I think a real sword fight would be very quick indeed. You would see the loss of a head, an arm, a hand. It would be very gruesome, bloody, and it would be over quickly, in my opinion. You want to get real, that's real. That's what these katanas are capable of doing. You're a good, responsible person, and like all dangerous things, it's not going to be an issue in your hands. How about against a firearm, Nutnfancy? Well, do I have to remind you of that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where the guy whips out the sword and gets blasted by Indiana Jones? So you kind of got that dynamic still. If the guy's close to you, if you're close to the bad guy and you have your katana, I don't know, the 30-foot rule? Yeah, probably plays. Extremely deadly. A lot of the knives I've reviewed here on the Nutnfancy table are just as deadly. I mean, that Natchez Bowie that Cold Steel makes, wow, something wicked this way comes. Yeah, that's a very formidable, huge Bowie knife. Also capable of inflicting massive damage. Katanas as well. I mean, let's just say it. They are amazing weapons. They are not foolproof. There's other ones if you're within firearm range. And I don't even know why I'm talking about this, but some guys will want to know. You know, a firearm will dominate you if you're outside a certain range, and I don't know what that range would be. They are weapons, still very capable. And actually, I saw on the internet, September 2009, a Johns Hopkins college student actually killed a burglar with his sword. I forget what type. Maybe it was a katana, maybe it wasn't. Killed him. Came across and the guy charged him. I'm not sure if the other dude had a weapon. I hope so if he opted to use deadly force on the guy. That's all I know about the incident. So there have been modern instances where a person defended their lives as they saw it with a sword. Kind of a peace of mind, don't you think? If you're within a close range, you're armed with this. It would be for me. More so than a knife, definitely. What have I always talked about in my Bowie knife or large knife reviews when I talk about tactical use? Reach. The reach. Look at the reach you have with a 28-inch katana. Actually, these are longer. These are 29.25 inch. So they're longer than maybe some katanas. I think most katanas run 28 to 29 inches. That's a lot of standoff capability. And while I say to go sword on sword with a guy, you're going to have to be very good, very quick, and very practiced. Even still, you're probably going to get all cut up. Seriously, even if you think you're really, really good. I will say that if you get in one good slash, one good thrust cut with a katana, probably fight over for the bad guy. Probably. There's not a lot of guys that will keep on fighting if their arm's laying on the ground. Unless they're really, really motivated. I don't want to get gruesome, but I want to be honest to the review, and to tiptoe around it and act like these are just wall hangings. Come on. Is that an honest review? No, it's not. Weapon, absolutely. How about backyard slasher? That's not my term. That's been bouncing around on the internet for a long time. So guys just get a katana and I'm going to go ahead and break out the the Dragonfly Katana. Let you get a good look at that one. Guys will just go out in the backyard with their katanas and start thumping on stuff. I don't have an issue with that at all, actually. I think it's fun. Maybe a little bit expensive because you're taking, in this instance, a $450 piece of cutlery and going out and thumping trees, tatami mats, water bottles, maybe wood piles and stuff with it like that. Okay, so to each his own, backyard slasher, and that could actually kind of dovetail into your training with a blade if you so want to dedicate yourself to doing that. I would suggest you get formalized training though. There's classes where you can become good with this, and like anything, it just takes time. It takes practice, and in this case, it'll probably take a fair amount of money for you to become good with it. Backyard slasher is a distinct philosophy of use, and I'm going to break that out into kind of a recreational philosophy of use, that guys just want to go out and, for the heck of it, cut stuff up. Nothing wrong with that. And then I think the most realistic and one that plays for me personally is a collectible. Let me go back to battlefield ready implements. Battlefield ready means these things are combat capable, and that dovetails nicely into a collectible. I think I kind of already touched on that. If they're not battlefield ready, I personally would not want to own them or display them myself. Some guys would. They don't care. You can go on eBay and get these very nice looking swords, maybe some Kill Bill knockoffs that look probably even more impressive than these Cold Steel swords. And voila, you got a really nice display piece. And no one would be the wiser except you. Maybe that's what you want. Not me. Collectible mantelpiece, because of their capabilities, that's why they're worthy of integration in the collection. And honestly, I like knowing that they could be used in defense of your life, if you had to. That's the philosophies of use as I see them right now. I can't stress enough, use care if you get a Cold Steel Katana or any sharpened, real, battle-ready katana, so you don't go out and hurt yourself. On we move. Weight, balance, and feel of the Cold Steel Katana. I hear complaints, and I think they're warranted, that the Cold Steel Katanas are actually kind of funky in several ways. One is they depart from a traditional design, one is the blade. Okay, I'll talk about that here in a second. But we're talking about balance, and another one is the design, the blade design, and then the balance is very blade heavy. Unlike a well-balanced katana that maybe will have the point of balance right about here, 5 to 6 inches forward of the guard is my understanding. I do feel that. Again, I'm not a practitioner, but I don't think you have to make some balance judgments. They are a little blade heavy. Some people call them choppers because of that. And it might not be quite as elegant of a katana as a more traditional design, where you want that balance because it leads to quicker transitions and repeat cuts. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but you're moving the sword very quickly, and you want that balance that will assist your movements. The weight is actually on par, from my scale, to other katanas. Let me see, I have it written down here. The Warrior Katana in the background weighs 40 ounces, and so does a Dragonfly. And it's interesting because if you get in the Cold Steel catalog, it makes it sound like the Dragonfly is a heavier duty version of the Warrior. And heavier, I think. I don't see that. They weigh almost exactly the same, and it's almost the exact same weight of every other katana that I've checked out. And I've got two in the background. This is a Ronin Dojo. This is a Chines 30-inch katana. They weigh about the same. We'll talk about a couple of those in competitive options, give you a quick glimpse on those. I think the balance is actually, for me, being a non-practitioner, totally doable. From a collectible standpoint, less of a factor. If you're really going to use it practicing martial bladecraft, then I think it would be more critical, and you might want to look elsewhere. Just for, I don't know, balance. It's kind of like a car that has weird handling characteristics, and you're trying to take it around the track as fast as possible. Some of that forward balanced weight on the Cold Steel Katana might be attributed to the blade design. Here we're going to roll in a Japanese term. When you have a full-length fuller run along the blade, I think that's called a bowhai. If it's a solid blade, it's a no-hai. I don't even know if I'm saying them right, but this one only has a bowhai midway, and then it kind of goes to its own shape, departing again from traditional katana design. And by the way, I'm not a traditionalist when it comes to katana. In other words, I would still integrate a Cold Steel Katana in my collection, even though it has some departures from traditional design. Some guys would not. They want absolute adherence one way or another to traditional katana swordcraft. Another reason it's going to be it's heavier, and this will lead us into blade design and steel, which I've kind of already started, is that these suckers are thick. These Cold Steel Katanas, I measured them at 0.285 in thickness at that point right there, and then of course they taper forward. Now this is the beautiful and more highly polished Dragonfly, and you're going to pay for that polishing job, which is no doubt laborious, and it features a different tip, which is a Kasaki. Okay, I rolled in a term there. And it's more clip shaped, kind of like a clip knife blade. I really like it a lot. Let's compare that against the Warrior Katana. And the tip is different. It's ground. And actually, like I've seen a lot of katanas in this price range, it's kind of rough hewn in a way. Because they make a transition, and however they're finishing that, it's not the same as the rest of the blade. Let's look very closely, by the way, at the finishing on the Warrior. I think in this 2006 version, and by the way, this is my personal Warrior Katana. I bought in 2006 for $225, eat your heart out. I love the blade finishing on it. Cold Steel will say it's a basic finish, but actually it's a satin finished sword. And it's gorgeous. You won't see a Hammond line on there. That is the wavering hardening line that you'll find on a traditional katana. Sometimes they fake that. If it's not a true differentially tempered katana blade, I say get rid of it. For aesthetics only, I'm not interested in having a Hammond line. I hope I'm saying that word right. I love the Warrior's finish, at least on this version, unless they've changed it. The Dragonfly's one is more highly polished, but This one, which is not my blade, I was surprised it wasn't more highly polished, because the way Cold Steel writes it up in their catalog is like, oh, this thing is the highest quality fit and finish, and it's just so gorgeous. Let me wipe this one section off because it's got some grease on it. It is fancier, more highly polished than the Warrior, but it's not like, I don't know, a mirror all along. I'm talking about this portion of the blade right here. And these blades, by the way, are probably the sharpest katanas out of box I've seen. I'm talking the Cold Steel. And I've seen about 3 other brands at this point handle them. These suckers are sharp, well done Cold Steel. Well done. And these, like most of them, are Chinese produced under the Cold Steel banner. I talked about the blade shape, the departure from that. Let me show you a more traditional katana blade so I can kind of do some comparison and contrast. Right now I'm going to break out a Chinese Nagasa katana. It's a 30-inch, which is longer katana, and it is a bow-high blade that is a full fullered blade, which is going to be quicker, more lively, and this one features superb balance to my inexperienced hands. Now you can see the traditional blade here, how it runs all the way down. Has a traditional katana tip to saki, and you can see it has similar finishing on the tip as well. This is a gorgeous blade, and I believe differentially tempered, and you can see a Hammond line on it. Like so. See that? The varying. That is actually produced, was produced in a traditional katana blade because they really didn't have advanced metallurgy of the day, and so they would wrap it with a specific clay formulation on the cutting edge as they tempered the blade. They would fire the blade up, and that would naturally invoke a curvature to the blade. So the katana curvature was actually an outgrowth of that tempering process. Did you know that? It was. And then you would have a relatively soft spine and a harder tip that would hold an edge. Kind of 2 different qualities. Now the steel used for the Cold Steel Katanas is 1055 carbon with a spring temper. I think it's an excellent choice. Currently, I've seen katanas of the Chinese variety. And by the way, if you want a Japanese katana made in traditional ways, all the way up to 35,000, I've heard. Yeah, they're going to be expensive. That's just the way it is. You can, of course, get them for cheaper, but most of the value price katanas, which these are honestly, are running around the $300 to $500, maybe $800 range. They're going to feature either 1045, 1060, 9260 spring steel. Some are running T10 tool steel, 1095, 5160, 1055 spring steel. In other words, you want a steel that is going to be resilient and tough in the hit. So if I hit some other metal, I don't know, like another sword, it's not going to break. That's the kiss of death for any sword, and so the sword maker is going to make it tough, resilient, with some edge holding capabilities. This is a mono-tempered steel, though, the 1055 that Cold Steel uses. Cold Steel tells us the following about 1055. Okay, it's a near saturated lathe martenite with no excess carbides, is what the catalog says. 0.5 to 0.6% carbon. Spring temper, it's extremely tough. They've used it in other of their products. I'm talking about Cold Steel. I think it's a great choice. It's a non-brittle steel, and it slices like a mofo. If you don't believe me, go watch the Cold Steel videos of them doing just that, and they are phenomenal. Not made up, like I've always said about Cold Steel demonstration videos. They're real. Cut a freaking pig in half. I don't remember. Did they? Probably. Amazing. Pretty much most of the Cold Steel swords are amazing in their cutting performance. They are real. They're just extremely deadly. Awesome. 1055, have no issues with it at all. Again, I like the Irish, that's so funny, iris leaf tip on the Dragonfly one. A little bit better. I just like it. Clip shape, has some sweet belly to it for slashing. That'll take us to the handle. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say this. When you have a continuous bow high, which I forgot to say, and as you've been watching the Warrior does, at least in this version, you will get some audible feedback. What do they call that? Tachakasi. So you can hear that, you know, whizzing through the air. It's a more lively sword in hand. Maybe better balance. Between these two swords, I'll just say it right now, I prefer the Warrior from what I've seen. The Warrior series. It seems to be better balanced, faster, and I don't mind the blade finish, the satin blade finishing at all. Let's talk about the handle. Here comes some criticisms. First up, a good thing. This is the Warrior Katana. The handle has a same or raid skin underneath. Then it has, I don't know, SEPA, spacers. I'm going to knock some of these terms out, but then I'm going to talk just generically. And then it has, what do they call the wrap here? Tasuka Ito. Tasuka Ito is the wrap. This is black rayon, and I would prefer a rayon wrap to a cotton wrap for a couple reasons. One, the colors are going to be more vibrant than a cotton wrap. Let's get that Chinese one back here. Check this. This is a beautiful blue cotton handle wrap, executed flawlessly. It is a little, I don't know, not quite as vibrant as it looks in the camera. That's cotton. Also, I think cotton over time may fuzz up. If it gets wet, it's going to stay wet. Just a couple modern considerations. You're going to get rayon or synthetic silk, I think, with the Cold Steel Katanas. This one has a dragon manuki in it, wrapped, gray skin underneath. There's another one right there. Nice and long, I think around 11 inches long, so there's a lot of real estate there, and that's another reason I love the katana. That it's such a comfortable to hold and wield sword in all kinds of different presentations. It's just so well balanced. I'm talking generally the type with a nice long handle. The European swords that have room for one hand, forget about it. They don't turn me on. To me, they're just limiting in what they can do. There's some other variations like the Chinese war sword that are amazing. Some other European swords like the Gross Messer, Cold Steel makes that amazing. That also has a lot of real estate. This handle wrap is perfect. There's your cap on it. See that? The Kashira. And it's nice and tight. That is extremely important. You don't want this to be loose. You don't want that to be loose. You don't want your guard to be loose or rattly if you want a battle-ready katana. This Warrior passes with flying colors. On to the Dragonfly Katana. Not so much. What? It's the same manufacturer. Well, yeah, it's under the Cold Steel name, but they may have had a different forge in China put this one together. And this particular one has some serious issues on the handle wrap. Look at this. That is not battle ready. It's loose. You can see the paper spacers underneath. It's got black ray skin on this. I think a Dragonfly manuki under there made out of brass. Even the cap is loose. You shouldn't have a wiggly Kashira, man. That's not good. I think over time, with serious hard use, this whole handle is going to come unwrapped. I didn't do it, but most handles on katanas can be removed. There's usually two bamboo pegs or brass pegs. They're right here. You knock those out and you can actually pull it off the full tang of the katana. And you can actually remove the guard that way, the handle, the cap. Actually, I think the cap. I didn't do it. Not going to do it. That's a big hit, by the way, on this one. For an expensive upgraded sword, this one needs to go back to Cold Steel and get fixed. Bad job on that. I love the color on it, though. That teal coloration on against the brass. That's beautiful. Handle and guard. The guard, I believe, is non-iron, non-steel. It's non-magnetic. I didn't test this one, actually. You can see the design on it. I think that's kind of a scorpion design or something. It is cool. It looks like wrought iron with a scorpion. I can't turn the blade enough because I'll hit the background. And then this one right here, also good. I really like the guards. Very cool. The Tsubas. Hope I'm saying that right. Dragon theme for the Warrior. And the Manuki is also a dragon theme right there. Some type of funky dragon in there. Nice job. You see the brass right here? I'm going to stab my lighting. Copper, brass. Oh, that's just beautiful. Beautiful. And the names of those are SEPA, the spacers. I'm going to get confused. Just leave it. Leave it at that. Point of balance, again, we already talked about that. When you talk about handle, that has something to do about with it because a longer handle will bring that point of balance more aft. Enough about the handle and guard, onto the sheath. Okay, the sheath. Let me start off with something bad. This one goes to the Warrior. Had it in my collection since 2006, and I have a piece come loose right here. Not too cool. Not too cool. I could probably repair that. I also have some chips in it. I honestly don't think it's going to be much different. This is a high luster enamel finish on these than any of the other Chinese produced swords. It holds tight, not too tight. The Dragonfly holds tighter in its sheath. You want a good balance, in my opinion. You don't want it to like go so tight in that you really have to bear down on it, because you might be bearing down on it so hard when that sword comes launching out, you might have something in the way. Again, you use great care. Here's a sheath to the Cold Steel Dragonfly Katana, again featuring that beautiful teal rayon. This one will have an upgraded fitting on it. I didn't really look, it's probably brass. I love that polished black. There's other Chinese swords, produced swords, that have all kinds of beautiful sheaths on them. Like this one, for instance. This is going to be the Ronin Dojo Pro, and you can see it has some more ornamentation on it. I think buffalo horn on the mouth opening. It's also polished enamel, not polished, but gloss enamel. Look at that. That's beautiful. And this has a particular name. If I think of it, I'll say it. If I don't, I won't. This is actually a better looking sheath than the Cold Steel. It really is. The sheaths are excellent. Now, they're not really, I don't know, modern. The katana is still a traditional weapon, and the construction, even in the Cold Steel, even though it varies in its blades and stuff, is very traditional. You don't see a kydex sheath, do you? I wonder how those would sell, by the way. A truly tactical katana. How would those sell? I don't know. They might sell well, they might not. But traditional in that they're wood, so if they get wet, you might have some problems. It may rust the blade. Keep them oiled, by the way. These are non-stainless tool steels, spring steels. Competitive options to the Cold Steel Katana. There are many. If you have $300 in your pocket and you're willing to buy a sword, here's some other names you might want to consider. Dynasty Forge. Got no experience with that. Hanwei. That's W-E-I, I think. I got no experience. Paul Chen, or the Chinese Forge. That's his beautiful blue 30-inch katana. Nagasa is this model. Highly recommended from what I know. More, I would say, put together balance. Quality levels are just as good, if not better, than Cold Steel. Nice tight handle on this. Beautiful, beautiful execution on this katana. Value price katana. Consider it. Ronin. I showed you that other one. That is a Ronin Dojo Pro Model 3. Did I take that one out to show you? Let me do that real quick. And I'll show you the quality of the blade. This is a no-high blade. No fuller. Look at your guard. The fittings, attention to detail, superb. Beautiful handle wrap in brown rayon, ray skin under there, brass, solid brass manukis, tight cap, no wiggle. Razor sharp. This is one of their beater swords, and I think they make this one out of 9260. Actually, I forget the steel on this. I'll annotate it. Great sword, about the same price, maybe even less expensive than the Cold Steel. You might want to consider it. Just might want to consider it. Beautiful sword, though. And then there's probably some others out there I've forgotten. I would stay away from any sword, if you really want a battle-ready sword, under, I will arbitrarily say, $150. I'm not going to say there isn't. Again, I'm not the end-all expert. I'm not going to say there aren't some really great swords out there in that price range. They might be, but they probably wouldn't feature these quality levels or the durability. You might have to go with a 1045 steel to get to that price range. Maybe not quite the edge retention that you would have with these steels, even though they're mono-tempered. Lots of competitive options. That brings us to, I will say, value. This one is very, well priced, at least when I got it, $225. Again, that's gone up. I think it's running around $345. Look in the upper right, and that's where I recommend to go buy your Cold Steel swords. Maybe I'll put a couple sources there. I looked on Amazon. This is running $345 at the making of this video. Those prices are always changing, by the way. That's a lot of money. Keep in mind, though, some blades are that much. And you're getting a huge combat-ready sword for that price. This Dragonfly Katana, even more expensive. I'm told $450, even though it has a retail of $719. That's because of the high polish job, slightly improved fittings, although we have a defective handle wrap on this one, like I've told you. I don't know if I would spend $450 on this particular sword over this. I would much prefer the Warrior series. Even though it doesn't have the beautiful blue handle wrap, has everything else I'd look for in a sword. Very displayable, razor sharp. It's an outstanding sword. Two kinds of cool and value. I think I've hit this pretty hard. The two kinds of cool are very present in the Cold Steel Katana. Any katana. Capability and roll, and does it turn you on? Do you like handling it? Be careful when you do this, but if you have a non-idiot buddy come over, I stress that first point. He's a non-idiot. You don't want to take out a combat-ready sword and give it to an idiot. Hey man, this is cool. He starts swinging around. Next thing you know, he's killed your cat. He's lopped off your arm. He's damaged some house furnishings. That's what an idiot will do with these. Don't let someone like that ever handle it. When these are taken out and they're handled, they're done so with respect. Like any weapon should be handled with respect. You take a Cold Steel Katana out, any battle-ready katana, and you better be very careful of how it's handled, how it's treated, who's around in the room. When it's out of its sheath, you get it? But to me, that is the first kind of cool. It's very capable, even in 2012 and beyond, in role as a combat weapon. You get training even more so. But like I said, one good hit with this sucker. Down and out. Down and out is what I say. Dude's done. Second kind of cool is it ties into the mystique of the samurai. Heck, for that matter, it ties into the mystique of the Japanese soldier during World War II who also carried swords, the katanas. Steeped in Japanese folklore, the warrior code of the samurai. Granted, it's been put out there and Hollywoodized over the years. Some's true, some's not, but they were true warriors. Brave. Anybody who will take a sword and meet another dude with a sword is brave, in my opinion. That's katana, dripping in all kinds of cool. I will say the upsides on the Cold Steel Katana are that it comes from Cold Steel. Generally, someone who gives us a lot for our money. On the downside, they have gone up in price over the years, like I've demonstrated with this one, the Warrior Katana. It's gone way up. There are other options that are perhaps more affordable now that you should consider, and I would recommend them just as highly as I would the Cold Steel Katana. These are choppers though. You will find information around on the internet talking about how deadly these things are in the chopping performance. Heck, go watch Cold Steel's videos. They'll show you straight up. They are a thick chunk of 1055 steel. They come razor sharp. Well, maybe not razor, but very sharp out of box. I love these things. Love them. That's the Nutnfancy review. First sword review. See ya.